Hello, everyone, and welcome to your first class in data science with Python. My name is Merrill, and I will be your instructor for the next upcoming weeks. So, quick question: are you all able to see my screen clearly and hear me clearly? Could you all please reply in the questions box? You have a questions box on your right hand side. All right, great. Thank you all for replying. All right. So a quick 1 minute introduction from myself. So my name is Merrill, and I will be a Python instructor for the upcoming weeks, and I'll be handling, most or all of your topics. Okay, and I've got around 10 plus years of experience working with Python. Working in various domains that include machine learning, cloud computing, web application development, automation, and a whole lot more. Now, uh, given that we have a very diverse background, which I know, okay, please let me know if you are comfortable. Okay, if you are comfortable with the topics or not. Okay, and if you do have a doubt, please let me know. Okay, if you have any issues, okay, we will take up various breaks and discuss the issues. Now, we've got around 14 modules. Okay, we've got around 14 modules for this particular course, and we've got 2 hours per day. So starting at 7 o'clock in my on my 7 o'clock on my clock here, and we'd be ending at roughly around 9 o'clock. So we'd be taking a break at around 8 o'clock, so that we get a little bit of rest to what do you say? Um, Build up the momentum and relax, take up all the information, digest it. So beside that, do we have any questions before moving forward? Sandeep, yes, your mic is muted. We have lots of attendees on the call. I would not be able to unmute you unless it is extremely necessary. We would have to adhere to this. Okay, if you do have any questions, please present your questions in the questions box. I would be more than happy to answer those questions. So just a quick check. Um, would you like to proceed, or do you have any questions before we move forward? Okay. So great. Um, Before we move forward, one more thing. It's going to be a very interactive class. I would ask questions. I would like you all to answer with a yes or a no, or if it is more subjective, answer with the subjective answers. And if you do not have if you have any questions for me, I would be teaching you, sorry, I would be answering those questions for you as well. All right. So okay. Praveen, you've got a question for me. Will you be teaching Python from basics? Yes, I would be teaching you Python for the first 3 modules. Okay, we've got 14 modules, please understand. Uh, as due diligence, I would like you all to go through each and every module whenever we complete them. If you do have any doubts, make sure to clear them before what do you say, attend the next class. If you are absent for a particular class by any chance, make sure to go through the recordings. You would be having recordings of the particular previous class. Okay, so make sure to go through those so that you are well adept with whatever has been taught in the previous class. All right. All right, with that being said, let's proceed with our topics. Okay, I will quickly run through the course content over here. Okay, now course outline. So we've got around 14 topics. We've got introduction to Python, sequence and file operations, deep dive. So these 3 topics are mostly to deal with your basic Python, with object oriented programming, modules, etc. And following that, we've got a little bit of data science. You've got NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, data manipulation, etc. And following that, you've got machine learning, supervised learning, dimensionality reduction, everything pertaining machine learning and mining, reinforcement learning, etc. as such. Okay, so we would be going through those. Okay, class, is everyone hearing me clearly? Do you have any disturbances, anything? Please let me know beforehand. Yes, no? Are you all able to hear me clearly? Okay, thank you. Just a moment. I think there is a student who has some disturbances on his side. All right, great. Now, as I said, these are all the various topics we'll be going through. Okay. Now, uh, introduction to Python. No, so that being said, okay, this topic is going to be a little bit, a little bit on the drier side, a little bit theoretical in nature. So please bear with it. Okay. Following probably tomorrow's class, we'll have much more hands-on exercises because we need to get you all inculcated with Python first before diving into the coding section. Okay, so I'll be going mostly through Python 3. Okay, I'll be running through Python 3 itself. So in between, for the for the initial class, I might do a little bit of Python 2 here and there. So don't worry about it because it's pretty much the same thing except for the higher level of stuff which is needed as such. Okay, now objectives of this particular module. Okay, define Python, understand why Python is popular, setting up the Python environment, understanding operands, expressions, writing your first Python program, command line parameters, etc. Okay, so don't worry if you are a little bit phased by the topics because we will be going through each and every one of them in great detail. Now, quickly, let me ask you all a quick question. Okay, is everyone from a programming background? Yes, no? Okay, there are lots of no's, a lot of yeses. Okay, so all right. So people who are not from the programming background, I would suggest you to give a little bit more what do you say, concentration, a little bit more effort on this particular what do you say, course, because this is going to be pretty intensive. The course is going to be pretty intensive. Okay, and you need to put in a whole lot of effort because we've got lots of topics, lots of information to cover. Okay, I wouldn't say you would have to break your head over it, but it's all about understanding the topics in detail, even if it's there, if it's basics. The basics are the most important part of it, so make sure you go through those in detail. Second thing, okay, here you've got a cartoon over here. What's the need of programming, etc. So let's just go through this. You've got a course management system, and this person needs to edit courses, and edit films and edit courses for a website, etc. So doing this in an automated format, okay, to edit the course, etc. How would you go through the process? So you've got various things, you've got various things in a course management system. Now, for example, the course which we are going through right now itself is dealt with various things. So you've got creation of video files, for your recordings, audio files for listening, motion graphics. So in the process of preparing the course, they have to deal with multiple types of files. Okay, you create multiple folders, organizing them, etc. Okay, so I'll be going through these things very what do you say, superficially. Okay, and this guy, he wants to automate the task. Okay, he wants to automate the task. So let me ask you all this question. Okay, if you find that you've got lots of manual things which are which are present, so you do task 1, task 2, task 3, task 4, task 5 every single day from somewhere around 7 to 8 or something like that in the morning. Okay, and there is a process to automate it. Okay, there is a process to automate it, and that spending that one time, okay, to automate that particular task is worthwhile. So you would probably say, okay, if I automate this task, okay, I would probably save 1 hour every day. Would you or would you not do it? Class, would you or would you not do it? Exactly. So, as you say, it would be best to actually go ahead and automate this. And we are in a particular, what do you say, time frame, or a on an era where speed is of utmost important. It is very important to go through things quickly. It is very important to save time. It is important to do things much more efficiently, and that is where programming comes into picture. Okay, and pretty much every domain, every particular what do you say, field has got a need of programming, and pretty much everyone in these domains uses programming as well. Okay, now for example, creating these folders take a lot of time because you have to create one by one. Okay, now if you are going to do it in a very what do you say, manual format. Okay, so you can actually create these folders in an automated fashion. Say say you create a small program which will say, okay, I want to create these folders: physics, chemistry, maths, which have got subfolders which are pretty much similar throughout. Okay, all of these three have got similar folder structures. So in that particular case, you can actually automate this entire process by writing a small program for it. And as a matter of fact, we'll be doing something like that in the upcoming classes. Okay, now hospital management system. So we'll go through a quick bit of examples over here. Hospital management system. So this lady is a receptionist in the hospital. Okay, uh, so what's the problem statement? She gets annoyed because she has to give a hard copy of the report to the patients. Okay, so she has to write down each and everything, and jot it down. And okay, say you've got a hospital which has got what do you say, a whole lot of patients coming in all the time. I've actually felt the pain of it, looking at people sitting at the reception. They don't even get a chance to take a break, where they'll have to write down all these details one by one. Now what if this part of actually giving them hard copies, writing down their names, and sealing it in an envelope is actually taken out of the picture? Instead, okay, putting it down in a soft copy, or this lady wants to create a system which will link the patient's report to their given Aadhaar card number, or personal identification number of sorts. So it's not necessary that we have only what do you say, Indians over here. We could have a whole lot of different other people. So it could be any sort of personal identification number which can be linked. Okay, so by doing that, it becomes much more easy, okay, for Annie or John, or, these two people, to actually deal with their problem statements, make it much more faster, make it much more smoother for them. So let's take a look at the solution. What they have. John learned the programming and designed a system which automatically creates the folders, name of the course, number of lessons at the end of the course. Okay, in the same way, this lady, she wrote a program to design a system in which the patient has to enter their other card number, and the report will be linked to his or her number. Okay, so in a very very simplistic manner, it's been explained. It's not that it's a very simple task. Sometimes it is, sometimes it is much more complex. So we'll take a look at what the need of programming is. Okay, so what exactly is the need of programming? Okay, to develop applications and games, automate time consuming tasks. Now let me ask you all this question back. Okay, not going into the slide. Let me ask you all a question. So the question is, what is your need for programming? Why do you need to learn to program? Just give me your problem statements, or tell me what issue would you solve by learning programming. Can you all tell me? I would like answers from everyone, please. And I would like a small bit of an example, maybe a single liner, not more than that. Okay. Automate manual work. Automation is one. Automate mundane task, or automate trading process, buy sell, very nice. Learn machine learning for application banking company, okay, very nice. Build technical solutions to solve business problems, to have a better understanding of data, to create a model from a problem, integrate and automate. So when I look at all of these, uh, it looks like pretty much everyone is on the same track. Somewhere or the other we need to automate our tasks. Okay, so provide a so let's quickly go through what we have over here. Okay, for date okay, Mrityunjay, the question is more on the side of why learn programming. Okay, not just for it's you would be learning Python for data science projects to solve certain problems, right? So that's exactly what we are talking about. Okay, keeping track of historical data, improving your existing system, providing better experience, helping streamline the process. So all of these actually help. Okay, uh, when you sorry, all of these become much more easier when you have learned programming. Okay, so you've got pros and cons over here with without computer programs and with computer programs. So you can communicate 3 to 4 with others, 3 to 4 days for sending a letter, and you've got less than a minute to send an email. Think about the days when you actually had to send letters, you had to send telegrams, you had to send postal. You still have to do it in a couple of things, but it's been simplified for most of us already. You don't have to really send out letters. You can just send out an email, and the person at the end would get that email within a matter of seconds. Okay, booking railway tickets, you can actually sit and book it from your mobile phones. Sending money from parent to child studying in college or school or whatever. So instead of drawing out a demand draft or a check or whatever it might be, it's easier just to link the what do you say, the school account to your account, and just transfer that amount. Seat allocation in engineering, instead of waiting and allocating seats manually, you can simply do it on the fly as such. Okay, so that's basically a few of the pros and cons. I'm sure you can come up with a whole lot more, but for our purpose, I think that is good enough. Okay, now there are a whole lot of programming languages. Do you know languages as such? Could you all give me answers? What languages have you heard about? Class, could you all answer as to what languages have you heard about in for programming as such? Okay, Java, Perl, Python, C Sharp, Fortran, Pascal, exactly, C Sharp .NET. Praveen, Ansible really is not a programming language. Okay, so because it's a configuration management tool. Scala, Turbo C, C++, HTML, PHP. Very nice. So these are all different programming languages. Tickle is also a programming language. Very nice. So we will quickly go through a couple of them. You've got C++, you've got MATLAB, you've got HTML, Python, Scala, Java, PHP. So you might have heard of all of these. Now there are pros and cons to using various languages. Now, uh, in between all of these various languages, you see Python lies there. Why? Why do you think Python lies in between all of these languages? Just to look at it in a very pictorial fashion. Can you all tell me why Python lies bang at the center? Why did you select Python? Now, besides the fact that you want to learn data science as such. Okay, it's a high level language. It can it incorporates features of each of these. Yes, very nice. Can be integrated with all of them easily. Open source, easy to read, syntactically very light. Yes, very true. uh, can connect with any other language. Yes, it works as a glue language. Very good. It's much more robust than other programming language. Not necessarily it is robust. I wouldn't say much more robust than other languages. It is widely used, yes. Why I wouldn't say it is much more robust than the others is because there are other much other there are a lot of more stable languages as well. So yes, it is robust, but then again, Python comes at the center of these because it incorporates pretty much a whole lot of stuff from all these languages as well. Okay, a lot of features of other languages as well. Now that is the very reason we would select Python as a language of choice when it comes to learning programming for the first time, or learning or something or the other with respect to programming for this first time as such. And even when it comes to rapid prototyping. Now over here, they say it has to be Python when you give that many reasons. So given that you've got all of this, it's simple and easy to learn. It's simple and easy to read, read and write, which is why Python would be the best choice as a language. Okay, it is free and open source. Okay, it is free and open source. You don't really have to pay for this. Okay, you don't really have to pay for this, which means you can actually freely distribute copies of the software, etc. Now take for example, earlier, probably a couple of years back, you had languages, okay, like C#, .NET, etc., and you would have to pay certain license for the for something like Visual Studio, etc. Now they've become pretty much free these days, but you still do have a couple of things which are still paid as such. Now Python being open source, free, and highly maintained by developers in that particular what do you say domain, it becomes very much easy to access, very much easy to use, and you are free to code, you are free to modify the source code as such, which is why it's a primary what do you say a primary language to learn as such. Okay, it's very high level. Okay, now you might have heard of the various levels of languages. You've got assembly level, you've got low level, you've got high level. Okay, and then you've got a very high level. Okay, so could you all tell me what might fit under assembly level? What about low level, and what about high level? Could you all tell me anything that comes to your mind? Parallel computing, no. I would say I'm talking in terms of languages. Manjunath. Yes, assembly level would be something to do with more with the hardware. Very good. ML would not necessarily be high level. So you know, high level would be something like Java, something like Python. Okay. Then you've got low level. Okay. Uh, you've got, yes, very nice, Hari Krishna. So you Hari Kishan, sorry. Assembler low level. So you've got languages like what do you say, something to deal with op codes and stuff like that. So you've got actual assembly level language, assembly level language where they use op codes, operational codes for programming. C for low and high level. Actually, no, there's, you wouldn't call it middle level. Then you've got, for high level, you've got Java, C, Java and C, and then you've got very high level, which is where Python comes into picture. Because the reason being, okay, the Python code that you have is very much English like. Okay, it's more like translating something from English to to a what do you say, much more refined sense as such. Okay, now all you need to know is understand how English works, and you should be able to even understand the syntactic, not really the syntactic, more like the actual keywords or the way Python actually operates. So you will see how exactly what exactly I mean by that when we actually do the program as such. It is, yes, which is much more user friendly, much more understood by people. Okay, much more easily understood. You wouldn't want to have something like uh, if you want to write something, you wouldn't want PR01 or PR02. You would want something like print 1, print 2. Makes sense, right? It's much more easier to have something like print 1 or print 2 rather than having PR01 and PR02, because it is much more closer to English. It is much more intuitive. That is why Python is a high level language. Portable, okay, you can use various programs across various OSs as such. You've got Linux, Windows, BSD, Macintosh, all of these available here, and your Python programs can be ported across any of these particular platforms without having a single hitch. Okay, they are pretty much what do you say, portable across all the platforms. Okay, so I am right now operating on my Mac, and I use that same code, okay, to work on Ubuntu. Ubuntu is a variant of Linux. Okay, so I work on that as such, and I don't have absolutely any issues when it comes to that. Supports a different programming paradigm. Okay, it supports procedure oriented programming as well as object oriented program. So we will talk about that in some time, regarding what exactly you mean by procedure oriented, what exactly you mean by object oriented. So it supports various paradigms. So typically when you talk about procedure oriented, we are talking about functions, or procedures, writing small functions. When you're talking about object oriented, we are talking about writing entire templates, so as to duplicate our templates, create instances of those templates. Now it is extensible. You can invoke C and C++ libraries, okay, and you can actually integrate it with other languages as well, like C++, Java, .NET, etc. All of these various components can be integrated along with your Python code. I'm not saying that you can just randomly write your other language code with Python. There is a certain structure to it, but it is very much easy and doable with respect to Python. So you don't need to use anything to integrate. You've got various modules, Manjanath. So those various modules will actually be able to understand that it would be that specific code. For example, you've got stuff, uh, stuff which is in C and C++, which can, which can be easily integrated with code in Python as such. So it is called, it's called as, the extensible part of Python as such. Now, here you should also understand that Python has been built on top of C and C++, which is why it makes it much more easier to work with C and C++ when it comes to Python as such. Okay. Now, why Python? Quick run through. Improved programming productivity because you are going to write shorter lines of code. Okay, for every 5 to 10 lines of code that you write in languages like Java or C++, you'd probably write anywhere between one to 3 lines of code in Python. Extensive support libraries, so you've got a plethora of libraries which you can actually work with. I've worked with, I don't know how many libraries in the time that I worked with Python. There are so many libraries for each and every task that you might come up with. Integration features, productivity, robust program portability, interactive, interpreted, and dynamic. We will talk about interactive, interpreted, and dynamic after some time. Object oriented language, so just like C++. So when you look at it on a very high level picture, you see that Python's got pretty much everything in there. It's like an all-in-one language which can be used for pretty much everything. And if you go into various domains, you will see that Python is being used pretty much every single place as such. Total number of libraries available now, Srinivas, seriously, I don't have a count, but it's more than 100,000. If you can probably go and check. Let me just give you the email, no, not email, sorry, the this particular location, www.pypi.org. That is the Python packaging index repository, where you will find all, or not all, if not all, most of the libraries which have been given to uh, open source, so that people can access them. So the moment you type out something, you will find something or the other for your use as such. Okay, so you can go ahead and just access that link, and you'll find a whole lot of libraries available there. Okay, Python is also widely used across a lot of companies, which is exactly why exactly the reason I'm sure that you are all here as well. Okay, so who is using Python? So let me ask you all this question: who do you think uses Python from your particular perspective? Now, which are the different companies which use Python? What do you know? Which companies that do you know about? Okay, Google, Dropbox, Netflix, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, AWS, YouTube, very nice, Facebook. Exactly. There are a whole lot of companies. You probably know most of the larger companies which actually do that. So pretty much all the trading companies as well, yes, use Python. That is very true. And you yourself have given me the answer. So a quick run through, okay, or as to who using Python on a very what do you say, global level as such. YouTube, okay, used to use Python. You've got Google, which makes use of their crawling system, their web search system. They use Python as such. Dropbox is something which is completely and primarily built in Python as such. Okay, which is file sharing mechanism. Raspberry Pi, if you're into embedded programming, you probably must have already looked into Raspberry Pi. And Raspberry Pi is something which pretty much promotes using Python as such. BitTorrent, so if you are into downloading from torrents and stuff like that, you probably already know. So you've got something like BitTorrent, which actually began as a Python program. NASA uses Python for their specific programming tasks. NSA use it for cryptography. Netflix use it for their machine learning, etc. as such. Okay, so you've got a whole lot of companies which still which actually use Python. So you already pretty much know what Python applications are used for. So a quick run through. So what is Python used for over here? Downside of Python. Okay, so I really wouldn't want to come. So Ankit has a question. What is the downside of using Python? So I really wouldn't want to comment on it because I am uh, pro Python. Okay, I love Python, and I wouldn't want to say there is a downside. But as every other language, there is a pro and there are cons to using languages as such. They are being tried I mean, people are trying to bring down the cons as much as possible, but there are certain cons. Now, for example, Python is not as fast as languages like C and C++. They are not uh, optimized for various purposes with respect to memory management and stuff like that. Okay, which is why people you pretty much find most of your drivers still being written in C or C++. You have what do you say, intermediate drivers written in Python, but your main drivers for your systems are pretty much written in C++. uh, what else do you have? Now there's something known as the GIL. It's not there in the course. You could probably go ahead and you know uh, Google it, find out more about it. It's the global interpreter lock, okay, which actually locks down your Python interpreter for, where you will not be able to actually create multiple threads because of this particular lock. So there are libraries which simulate that, which pretty much play around that lock as well to get around that problem, that problem. But there are cons to doing so as well. Okay, it is easy to make mistakes in Python. Okay, so uh, if you are from a domain like Java or C or C++, you will have a certain programming style. Okay, and when you move to something like Python, you'll probably start using Python in that particular manner. Now when you do use it in that manner, you will find that your Python code becomes a little bit more slower as compared to the manner dictated by Python itself. So you've got a certain way of coding known as a Pythonic way of programming as such. When you follow the Pythonic way of programming, your code becomes much more faster. So learning that is also essential. Okay, and it comes with practice. That's something which I will stress upon. You would have to practice. Uh, and there are a whole lot more, but not really what do you say, mention worthy. But I hope you are satisfied with the answer, Ankit. Ankit, yes, no? All right. Now, with that being said, so as I said, Python is used for web scraping. It's used for testing. You've got it for web development, data analysis. So you see all these pictures over here. So you've got Python for web scraping. You use something known as Beautiful Soap. You use something known as Scrapy. For testing, you use something like Selenium, which has support for Python. You for web development, you use Django. There are various web frameworks which are built on Python. You've got Django, you've got Flask. For data analysis, you use something like Pandas. Okay, and you'll be using that as well. Okay, is everyone clear with these topics so far? Everyone? Okay, great. Now, are there enough jobs in the market for Python related roles? So let me ask you this question: are there? Do you believe that there are enough and more jobs for Python based roles in the market? And why would you say that as well? Could you all tell me? Why do you say that there are so many jobs in the market? Okay. News articles, friends. Okay. Looking at the increasing demand for ML and data science, financial markets. Very nice. If you go through Indeed.com, very true. Very good, very good. So that's pretty much right. So if you go through all these various sources, you'll find that, for example, someone actually said that if you go through Indeed.com, you'll find a remarkable increase or a stability in this as such. So if you look at the charts over here, it shows the number of matching job posts. So you'll see they've got a timeline of 2014 to 2017. Okay, and Python is pretty much either stable or matching or even going higher now because of the dawn of machine learning and Python being heavily used in these particular domains as such. Okay, and if you actually go through, you'll actually find there are a whole lot of jobs which are actually available to you. So even on Google Trend, okay, even on Google Trend, you'll find that Python jobs are still on the rise. Okay, so I don't really have to uh, elaborate on that particular section as such. Okay, just a moment, class. Sorry about that. Okay, now a quick run through for the Python interpreter. Okay, the Python print interpreter is a program that reads and executes code. Okay, so let me ask you all a question. Do you know the difference between an interpreter and a compiler? So I can understand there are people who are not from the same background. Okay, class, I would like answers from everyone. So people who already know what the difference between a compiler and an interpreter is, could you all could you give me an answer for that? Okay, exactly. And an interpreter runs your code line by line. So if you have actually got experience working with languages like C, C++, or Java, okay, you'll actually see that their code is first compiled. Okay, what compile means is that it creates what do you say, a much more easily understood version, okay, of that particular code by your compiling system like C or C++, or even by your operating system. Okay, so it changes that code to what is known as bytecode, and then it is run. And even before compiling it, there is a there is a check for your entire syntax and correctness of the program. That is correct. Everyone has pretty much answered the right, given the right answer as such. Sorry about that. So an interpreter, on the other hand, it really does not check for your correctness. And even if you want to, you can just do it line by line. You don't have to bother with, compiling the program, etc. But please do remember, Python, on the other hand, has an inbuilt, compiler when it comes to writing large programs, large scripts, etc. When you write a program on a notepad or on some sort of an editor as such and save it and run it, it'll first compile it to a bytecode and then it'll run it, which makes it much more faster than your typical uh, interpreter as such, something like Perl or something like that. It makes it much more faster. Okay, so we are going to see how to run a particular line of code on the interpreter as well as run it separately from a particular file. Is that clear, everyone? Is there any other language which uses an interpreter? Yes, you've got languages like Perl which uses an interpreter as such. There are other languages as well. I wouldn't actually, I don't really remember it from the top of my head, but Python, it's always been that way. Yes, Ankit, that is true. Okay. All right. Now, moving to the next part of this. Okay. Understanding the Python interpreter. So let me just pull up my interpreter, which I have already got installed in my system. Okay. So typically, okay, so I've got a Mac right now. Okay, I've got a Mac right now. So all I have to do is, okay, let's say I'll create something known as CD desktop dir edu, something like this. Okay, I'll go to this thing. Now first, okay, if I'm going to create a our programs as such, etc., if you're working on Windows, you can open up the command prompt cmd. Okay, and if you're working on Linux or Mac, you can open up what is known as a terminal. Everyone clear so far? Any questions, any doubts so far? Class? Yes, no, maybe? Okay, great. Now when you do this, make sure, now Mac and Linux basically have Python already installed in them. Okay, typically you'd have the 2.7 version, 2.7 dot whichever, okay, X version already installed. Okay, I've got 2.7.6 installed. Okay, so if you are working on a Mac or a Linux box, you can simply do Python minus minus version. Okay, so I've got 2.7.13 on my system. I will make sure that I'll have the 3.7 version, 3.6 version installed as such. Okay, I don't have it with me right now. I've got it on another system. Okay, so then we'll probably take it forward with 3.6 as well. Okay, now how do I start the Python prompt? Okay, the Python interpreter. You simply do Python, hit enter. So the default Python will start up over there. Sometimes what happens is that you can even have two versions of Python. You can have Python 2 and Python 3 both on your system, and you can use either of them. Now I know Python 3 is used a lot these days, okay, because it's a new Python as such. Okay, but please remember that you've also got various applications which are already built, okay, on Python 2. So it would be advisable to understand a little bit of Python 2 as well. Is that clear? So again, Sandeep, even on Windows, you would have to run the same command, Python minus minus version. But I doubt you would have Python installed there. If you do not have, then you would have to install it if you want to really install it and try it out. Is that clear, Sandeep? Sandeep, are you clear? You would have to install it. So which one do you normally use at work, 2 or 3, and which one is preferred? So typically I actually use both, because I work on enterprise software, which is built for what do you say, the public, or for various other users as such. So I use pretty much both of them. I provide support both for both of them as such, because sometimes what happens is uh, you know there are certain parts which still need support for Python, and certain parts would still need support for Python 3 as such, Python 2 or Python 3. So it depends from company to company, place to place. Okay, so I use both of them. Okay, I hope I've answered your question, Ankit. Just give me a few moments, Om Prakash. If we do have that, we will go through it. Okay. Okay, now as I said earlier, okay, running your Python command. So you can actually go ahead and check for help. So if you do Python here, you would be at the interpreter, typically on Ubuntu box, or on Linux, you simply have to type Python and you will be inside this. You see they've used 3.5.2 over here. I will be making sure that I will have that soon. Okay. All right. So you can simply do that. Now to check for help, you can simply do help on any particular syntactical expression that you have. You can do help of print. So you can, you get what is known as the, help information for that particular thing. So it's pretty much in there. Okay. Or you can go to help prompt, help open close parentheses, and you'll get into the help prompt where you can simply type print. Okay. Or you can type for, depending on what you want to search for help on. Is that clear, everyone? I mean, it's as simple as that. Any questions, any doubts? I just wanted you to, go through so that, you wouldn't have the problem there. Okay. Now, we are at our almost 1 hour mark. So before we head on to the next topic, shall we quickly take, say a 10-minute break or so? Everyone, shall we take a quick 10-minute break? All right. So let's take a quick 10-minute break and be back after the break. Okay. So if you do have any questions, okay, please make sure to, put them over here. So how do you exit out of help? You can simply do, you can, simply type exit. Okay. Or simply hit and enter at an empty line. Okay. Can we use partial instead of command? No, Darshan, you cannot. Partial is a different language altogether. Okay. On Windows machine, you would have to, install Python separately. So I will explain how to install Python on Windows as well. So we'll do it after the break. Is that clear? So Ganesh, you can simply do, you can do a, what do you say, exit and hit enter. Okay. So help exit. Oh, sorry. You can do quit. Is that clear, Ganesh? All right. So we'll take a quick break of 10 minutes and get back after the break. If you do have any questions, please put them forward and we will discuss more after the break. I will be on mute for the next 10 minutes. All right. Thank you, everyone. All right, I'm back, everyone. Let me just go through your questions. All right, so there are two questions. Have you used Cython? No, Manjunath, I have not used Cython, but I have heard it's a very interesting library uh, to be used as such, especially so Cython is basically so I would say I have used Cython. Now Cython is basically a C variant of Python. So typically, what you're using might as well qualify for being Cython itself. Okay. Do you prefer us to shift to Linux or Mac from Windows? Most of our job profiles look for Linux, shell scripting, etc. So it depends upon your job profile itself. So I do not I would not suggest you to shift from anywhere as long as you're comfortable with what you're doing. It should be good because you should be able to work on. See, it's a portable language. You should be able to use it across any any OS as such, be it Python, sorry, be it Linux or Windows. So regardless, shell scripting and all that, all that is totally independent of Python. So it's up to you. Okay, I use it for all purposes, so really does not matter for me. Is this course more into like how to master Python and also help learn machine learning concepts? I would say uh, I wouldn't say master Python because mastering Python it needs years. Okay, how to get the gist, get in depth into Python to at a certain level where you would be able to use Python pretty much freely. Yes. Okay. Uh, Also to help learn machine learning concepts rather than help learn machine learning concepts, I would rather say understand a few of the machine learning concepts and make use of machine learning libraries, because something like TensorFlow, okay, it doesn't really need you to understand in-depth machine learning as such. To tell you the truth, machine learning concepts very much depend on mathematics, a whole lot of mathematics that too. Okay, and that learning that specific part would take months altogether. uh, because machine learning in itself is a huge what do you say subject itself. Okay, it's a really huge subject, but learning the libraries is much more easier as such. Is that clear, Hari? I hope I've answered all questions here. All right. Which IDE will be we using in our session, Jupyter, Spider, or any other? It is up to you to use whichever IDE you want. You can use Jupyter, you can use Spider, you can use PyCharm, you can use Eclipse. It does not really matter. Okay, PyCharm is a favorite. Okay, for Python because it's got lots of support. It's easy to use, and you can do a whole lot of stuff with Python. No, sorry, PyCharm. So it's up to you. Okay, but in this we use in this particular course content, they have used both Jupyter and PyCharm, so it's up to you to decide. Again, it's a personal choice. I really would not pressure anyone on that. And specifically, I use something like VI editor and I use the terminal for most of my purposes. Okay, I don't use a whole lot of IDEs. It's like hardcore programming as such. Is that clear, Suresh? All right. So with that, let's proceed to the next part of it. Okay. So installing Python on. So let's take a few minutes to understand installing Python on Windows. Okay. So you need to download the exe from python.org. So for people who are on Windows, so please listen to me carefully on this. Okay. You need to download the python.exe file or .msi file from python.org. Install, double click, go through the entire process of installing it. So once you're done installing, you might have to, because most of the places it is not required, but you might have to set up what is known as the environment variables. Okay. Okay, or env variables. So make sure to set those, there are instructions for that. Please make sure to go through that. Sometimes it is not required. Sometimes on the older windows version you might have to actually, not older windows version, older python version, you might have to set up the environment variables. Is that clear, everyone? Any doubts, any questions as of now? You would have to you would find it at, right before introduction to python in your lms. Okay, if it is not there, you'd probably have to go. There's not much of instructions. You just have to double click on downloading it and, running it. That's it. Mark. Okay. uh, if you do have any doubts, again, please let me know. I'll probably, I'll try to assist you through that. Now, quick question before we move on. Are you all comfortable with the pace that we are going at? Do you want me to speed up? Do you want me to slow down? Ganesh, if you have a Mac, you don't have to, worry about installing Python. So uh, please let me know if you want me to speed up, slow down, or go at the same pace. Okay. So couple of you want to speed up, couple of you want to slow down. Okay. So with the theoretical part, I think so I will speed up. Okay, since I see that a couple of you want to speed up on the theory, whereas on the coding part, I might, continue with the same pace itself. Is that clear, everyone? All right, I would try to go a little bit slower on the practical. Okay, but make sure to, absorb. And if you do have any questions, please make sure to ask those questions. Okay, I do not want any of you to go, any of your questions to go unanswered there. All right. Okay, with that, let's move on with our topics. Okay. Okay, so let me ask you all a question. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to draw parallels between English and Python so that it becomes easier for you to understand. So let me ask you a question. Okay, what do you understand by the word comment? What is a comment? So you use comments in any programming language. So what is a comment? I would like answers from everyone, please. Okay. Give info to the compiler or interpreter not to consider. Explain what the code is. Very good. Mention of something. Free flowing ideas. Comment is what we want. Yes, very good. So pretty much everything that you have answered is correct. One, a comment is simply there to instruct or give details regarding the code. Okay. Two, okay, a comment is a non-executable. It is not going to execute. It is not going to cause a problem during your, execution. Okay, so you've got two different types. Okay, typical, your actual comment. Okay, your actual comment. Let me just get into the Python prompt. Remember, getting into the Python prompt is all about writing Python, hitting enter. That's it. Now, a comment goes like this. You start with a hash or a pound sign and tell whatever you want. This is a comment. Good for me. Okay. You see, it really did not execute. There was nothing happening there. It just chose to ignore it. So remember, I am at the interpreter. Okay. When you see these three arrow signs, which it means that you are in the interpreter. Now, this is a comment. Now, there is another concept which is known as doc strings. Okay, remember this very well. It is known as doc strings, okay, also known as documentation strings. Over here they have mentioned it as being bulk comments. I wouldn't really prefer to call them bulk comments. They can be used for bulk commenting, okay, but majorly is used for documentation. Why? Because of this. You see, if you write a comment like this is a comment, you hit an enter and you continue it, so you get an error. A comment like this with a hash or a pound sign means that it is going to be a single line comment. You cannot write multiple lines with it. But on the other hand, when you have triple double quotes or triple single quotes, it is known as a doc string. And there, so you see, there was no error there. It took it up as a multi-line comment. Everyone clear? Any doubts? Any questions? Class, I would like you all to answer, please. Okay, very good. So everyone clear on this? Yes? All right. Now, again, remember hash or pound sign, single line comment, triple double quotes or triple single quotes, it's can be called as multi-line comments, but they are known as doc strings. Okay, so typically this can be used for commenting out. Also, they are used for documenting functions, comma classes, comma programs, etc. Is that clear? Okay, very good. Now, we've also got what is known as literal constants. Now, anything which has a constant value, for example, a character, a set of characters, a string, or a number, they are known as literal constants. They are literally constant in nature. For example, can you have 1 equals to 2? Could you all tell me? Is it possible for 1 to be equal to 2? I mean, classically speaking. That is exactly right. So you cannot have 1 equals to 2. Okay, you can have a equals to 1, you can have b equal to 2. That is true because these are all variables. Okay, these are variables. Now a constant on the other hand has a specific value, which is why they are known as literal constants. Please remember that. Okay, now moving to the next part, indentation. This is a very key concept and a very important concept when it comes to Python. Please remember that. Okay, now what do you mean by indentation? Okay, we do not use braces when it comes to indicate blocks of code. Please remember, for people who have come from Java, C++, in Python we do not use braces. We use it by line indenting. Okay, indenting lines. How? For example, you've got something like this. You see this? Now, this is a simple function. Okay, you denote that anything under this function should have a certain amount of white spaces, leading as such. Okay, leading white spaces, and those particular lines belong to that particular block. Okay, and they have to be exact throughout the particular program. If you are following a 4-line indent, that means 4 space indent, then you have to continue using 4 space indent throughout. If you're using 8, make sure to use 8. If 5, make sure to use 5. By default, the styling standards in Python mention that your line indenting should be kept to 4 white spaces. Is that clear, everyone? So again, they are leading white spaces. Okay, they are leading white spaces. No, braces of any sort, and they are rigidly enforced, which means if you have any mistake in your indentation, you will get an error. Okay. Now, Python code execution. So your structured code, your code is written and saved with a .py extension. The code will be converted to a bytecode for the machine to understand. As I said, okay, as I said, it is, what do you say? It is compiled internally by your interpreter. There is a compiler in the Python by default. Yes, you please do not use tabs and spaces together. If you're using tabs, use tabs throughout. If you're using spaces, use spaces throughout. Is that clear, Manjunath? Okay. Now with that, once it is converted to bytecode, the bytecode is then executed, which makes it a bit more faster. Is that clear, everyone? Any questions, any doubts at this point? Class, I would like you to think about any questions or doubts that you might have, because with that we will move on to the next topic. Okay, very good. So we are all clear. So let's move on to the next topic then. So the demo for creating the Hello World program. Okay, we've got the Hello World program. Now this is a usual task, learning, what do you say, a language starting with Hello World. So again, this is Python 3. Please remember, you can, and Python 2 also follows pretty much the same syntax. Okay, so let me just clear this up for you. Okay, now simple, hello world. So in Python 2, you do something like this: print space hello world. Okay, your opening quotations and closing quotations, so it should be exactly the same. If you're having single quotations, please follow single quotations. If it is double quotations, make sure you use double quotations. Is that clear? Okay, so print hello world. Okay, you hit enter, you get hello world. In the same way, Python 3 uses something like this: print within brackets, use hello world. Okay, Python 3 specifically makes use of brackets, that is parentheses, for print or input or whatever statements. Is that clear, everyone? Class? Okay, so if you already have got the interpreter installed, I would suggest you to take a minute and try this out, please. Everyone, please take a minute and try this out. Praveen, what are you getting? What exactly did you? So if you have an issue, please, state the problem and then type out what you are getting, what the issue is. Ganesh, I would suggest understanding from both the, both perspectives. Okay, it might be better to follow Python for a couple of you, but there are a lot of people who have who would need to use Python 2 as well. So I'm being fair to everyone there. Okay, so what you have done is put, you need to have a space between print and your parentheses. Yes, Ankit, brackets will work in Python 2 as well, because I am using Python 2, and there is a backward compatibility, so don't worry about it. So please take a minute and execute it. Once you're done, please type out a done on the questions box, so that I will know that you're done doing and testing it out. Praveen, as I said earlier, print space open hello world. You have a single space between print and this thing, so you need to have a space. You cannot put it as this. You need to have a single space. Sandeep, please give a space between print and you have open. See, please remember, I have already told you, make sure to use single quotes if you are using single quotes throughout. Make sure to use double quotes if you're using double quotes throughout. Okay, good. Everyone has pretty much got the output. Sandeep, what about you? Your Sandeep, your print statement has got a single quote and a double quote. You need to have both as either single quotes or both as double quotes. Please answer if you're answer with done. If you're done, please. Okay. So everyone done? All right. So let's move on. Okay. Sandeep, as I said earlier, this will not work on Python 2. Sorry, Python 3, because only Python 2 is backward, compatible. So you have a lab session which is available. Okay. Please make sure you can go through what do you say, the lab session. You have got it in your LMS. Please make sure you go through that as such, Praveen. Okay, you will not be able to see the chat, Tarangini. Okay, only I will be able to see everyone's chats. Okay, with that, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so everyone clear with this? Hello world, yes, no? Could you all please reply? All right, great. Now let's move on to the next slide. Okay, variables. Okay, so can you all tell me, what do you understand by the word variables? Quick answer, everyone. All right, very good. So something whose contents can change, something that can be assigned value, whose value changed throughout the program. That is correct. Now, that is exactly what a variable is. Okay. Now, we have certain rules to name variables as such. Okay. So basically, your variables are typically known as identifiers. Okay, something which can be identified with. Okay, a Python identifier. Okay, a Python identifier is a name used to identify a variable, function, class, module, or any other object. So you can have capital A to capital Z, lowercase a to lowercase z, or an underscore followed by a zero or more letters or digits as such. Okay, so these all qualify to be variables. Python is a case sensitive program, which means is capital A and capital no and lowercase, are they equal? Are capital A and lowercase a equal? Could you all tell me? Exactly. Okay, they are not equal. Capital A and lowercase a are not equal, which is why it means that Python is a case sensitive program. Now, if I do a equal to 1 and capital A is equal to 5, print A and print capital A are going to be totally different. That is what it means to say that they are case sensitive. Now, it does not allow for special characters like at the rate, dollar, or percentage within identifiers. This is a strict rule. Please remember that you cannot use this. However, you can use an underscore. Now, we've got certain naming conventions. Okay, for example, so as we get to various points, you will be able to understand it much more clearly. But for now, just keep these in mind. Class names start with an uppercase letter and all other identifiers start with a lowercase letter, something like this. Now, class, you know, hello world, something like this. Is that clear? That is how you start off with class names. Okay. And on the other hand, your function names have something like this. Okay, you've got underscore, you can have underscores to separate it. It is not mandatory, Manjunath, but it is a convention, as I said. Okay, typically we would always prefer to follow convention to keep the code neat and clean and very much streamlined. Okay. Okay, so starting an identifier with a single leading underscore indicates that the identifier is private. Okay, so we will talk about private public later. Okay, later during the course, but for now keep it in mind. But as a quick question, I will ask you what it means later. Starting an identifier with two leading underscores indicates that it is strongly private, and when it ends also with a trailing underscore, then it is a language specific name. So let me just give you an example. Now, this is a regular variable. This is a private variable. This is a strongly private variable, and this will be also known as a built-in variable. Is that clear, everyone? Public, private, strongly private, and built-in. We will talk about their uses later, not now, but please keep this in mind. All right. Now, so as I said, they are conventions. So variables are nothing but reserved memory locations to store values, which we already spoke about. Okay. Now, assigning values 10 and Edureka to variables a and b respectively. Over here, a 10, b so and so, print a comma b. You can do something like this. No, so equals to 10, b is equal to Edureka. Now this is a string. Please remember, strings need to be within quotation marks. Okay. Now print a comma b, and it will print it like this. Is that clear, everyone? So in Python 3, when you print it like this, there would be a little discrepancy. I will sorry, Python 2, when you print like this, there would be a little bit of a discrepancy in. So again, Ankit, we will talk about private and public later. Okay, not in this class because I do not want to bring in too much of complexity in this class. Okay, in the upcoming classes, we do have a part for that. Okay, so print out multiple variables in this particular way. Print a comma b. Okay, now what are the data types that you know of? Can you all right? Okay, before we do that, since you have already asked, let me ask you a question. What do you understand by a public variable and a private variable? Can you all tell me? Okay, public accessible to all, private scope is limited. That is exactly correct. So public, that means it is accessible from anywhere and visible to everyone as such. Private, on the other hand, has got limited visibility, limited access, and we will talk about the access levels in the upcoming classes. Okay, now what are the different data types that you know of, that you understand? Can you all tell me? Okay, string, integer, float, boolean. Very nice. There are others as well. Okay, but for our purposes, we will limit ourselves to Python standard data types. Okay, so values which cannot be changed and values which can be changed. Okay, immutable data types, that means values cannot be changed for these particular items. Okay, when you're talking about values cannot be changed, that means the values cannot be changed during the running of a program. Now, for example, numbers, strings, and tuples. Okay, we will talk about tuples and we will talk about various methods to use on tuples and strings later. Okay, values which can be changed on the fly are lists, dictionaries, and sets, but just keep these in mind. So, you've got numbers or integers and floats, strings, tuples, lists, dictionaries, and sets, which are going to comprise of our standard data types. Are we clear, everyone? Class, are we clear? Yes or no? Okay. Again, Mark, as I said, we are not going to be able to. So, how is a variable useful if you cannot change value? You can change the value for the variable, but you cannot change the data type itself, the value within the data type. Okay, there's a difference between a data type and a variable. Is that clear, Mark? So we will talk about that later. You can always change variable values, but data types, it depends on what type. Okay, all right. So you've got numbers, strings, tuples, which belong to immutable or unchangeable. Lists, dictionary, sets are changeable or mutable. Okay, all right. Now we've already talked about this. Now, under the numeric type, we've got a couple. Okay, we've got integers, we've got floats, and we've got complex numbers. Okay, integers or signed integers, which can be positive or negative numbers, are whole numbers. Okay, something like this. Okay, so you've got a is equal to 10, b is equal to -5. These are integers. So you can just do type of a or type of b, which will tell you it is of type int. On the other hand, c is equal to minus 1.5 or d is equal to 1.25. Type of c and type of d, these are floating point values. Clear? Now, that is what an integer is and what a float is. Now, what do you understand by complex numbers? Can you all tell me what are complex numbers? Okay, just a moment, everyone. Om Prakash, you have a question? Exactly. So, yes, Ganesh, that is correct. Type will need parentheses as such. Now, complex numbers, stuff which is learned in school, college. Okay, something like this. Okay, I'll call it CM. Okay, 1 plus 4j. CM dot real, CM dot image. So you've got complex numbers which contain a real part and an imaginary part. Is that clear, everyone? Okay, please go through your sorry, high school mathematics. That is very important. Okay, so in Python you can represent numbers in multiple ways. You have binary, octal, and decimal as well. Okay, now I already talked about integer, float, and complex. It's already something which we have discussed. Immutable data types. Nikhil, we cannot use I as a complex number. We use J as a complex number. Okay, 6 minus 7J. Okay, is that clear? Okay, now again, immutable data types, the continuous set of characters presented within quotations are known as strings. Python allows for either pairs of single or double quotes. Remember, you start with a single quote, you end with a single quote. You start with a double quote, you end with a double quote. Okay. Now, Srinivas, it is not really of concern right now to work on complex types, so we will not get into that. Okay. So, just to give you an example, you've got D is equal to 2 plus 5J, D dot real, D dot image. Okay. Mm, E is equal to 5 minus 10J, E dot real, E dot image. Is that clear, Srinivas? Okay. In the same way, as I said, we've got strings. Okay. So I'll call it my string is equal to hello world, print my string. Okay. M string is equal to double quotes hello world, print M string. Okay. You see, I've always started and ended with the same type of quotations. Is that clear, everyone? All right, great. So let's move on to the next topic. I know it's a little bit, slow, okay, but I would like you all to understand clearly, okay. So as I said, we've got immutable data types known as tuples, okay. Now, what exactly is a tuple? Okay, consider that you have to probably put. Okay, now say I want to store a record, okay, of a person's name, age, and say date of birth. Okay, so how would you typically store it in a variable? Can you all tell me? How would you typically store the name, age, and date of birth in a single variable? I would like to like you to come up with examples. Darshan, please do not use any things which are not mentioned in the class so far. So come up with a different approach. Okay, so there are examples using, in brackets, name, age, dob, using classes, using three variables. So the typical approach would be to use something like, name is equal to blah, age is equal to blah, and date of birth is equal to blah. But by using what is known as tuples, we make it much more simpler. Okay, remember, a tuple is immutable by nature, which means you cannot make a change to a particular tuple which has been created. For example, we'll call this as, you know we'll call it as rec1. Okay, to call it as a record one. And a tuple is always defined within parentheses. Okay, only your circular brackets or your parentheses. So I'll say name is Meryl, age is 32, dob, I'll leave it to your imagination. Okay, so 10 to 984 or something like that. Okay, now this, if you do type of rec1, you will see that the type is a tuple and it cannot be modified. Okay, so you can access rec of, so remember, a tuple is indexed in nature. Okay, so print rec1. Okay, we'll bring up something like this: print rec1 of 0, print rec1 of 1, print rec1 of 2. Give you something like this. Everyone clear? This is a tuple and it cannot be modified. Is that clear, everyone? Any questions? Manjunath, I do not understand what your question means. Could you please give an elaboration? Yeah, I have given it as a string in this particular example. Okay, so a tuple can have different objects like a data. You can have strings. You can have integers. You can have anything in that. Yes, once a tuple is defined, you cannot change the values. That is exactly correct, Sandeep. Okay, so everyone clear with this so far? All right. So I would like to stop for the day. Okay, and probably because we've got mutable data types next, and I want to spend a little bit more time on mutable data types. Okay, so before we leave for the day, do you have any questions with respect to Python, with respect to what we have done in this class? Or let me just do a quick recap. So what we learned in today's class, what we learned in today's class is regarding Python, regarding users of Python, regarding a little bit of Python syntax, how to write the hello world program, how to what exactly integers are, what is a float, what is tuple, um, and what more have we learned? Can you all anything that I've missed? Anyone? Is there anything that we've missed? We talked about how to define private variables, public variables, etc. Srinivas, what it means is that we do not have any methods, okay, which can allow you to modify a tuple. Okay, so if you do, so typically, where once you learn what a list is, you will understand, because you will not be able to append, anything to this, or rec1 of 0 1 0 1 2, rec1 of 3 is equal to 5. You cannot do this. You see this, it'll tell you you cannot do this. Ganesh has a question. Any pointers on which forums to use for Python help to discuss and resolve user problems? Any good links, books, etc. you would recommend for Python? So for Python help, I would suggest, if it's related to the class, please raise a request with Edureka. So you do have the Edureka learning management system. You have that support button. Click on that, and you'll be able to request for help. If it is in general, you can Google. You can go for Stack Overflow. It's up to you, because you've got lots of help online. Okay. Any good links, books that I would recommend? There are multiple books. I would not recommend specific books, but for a beginner, I would definitely recommend Learn Python the hardway.com. Okay, Learn Python the hardway.com. Okay, so you can. That is for a beginner. For advanced levels, right now I would not. It would be too taxing. Okay. Um, should we be using lab for all coding? I would suggest you to use the lab for all coding. And if you do have Python installed on your system, you can go ahead and use Python on that. Any other questions, class? Also, please, always make sure that, if you are leaving the class, if you're dropping out, or out of the class, make sure to inform me first, because I would need to know who is dropping out so that we do not have any discrepancies. Second thing is, at the end of every class, you will be presented with a feedback form which you need to fill on the way out. Please make sure to fill that feedback form, because it is going to count as your attendance, and we would need that information so that we can you know uh, give you a better experience. Is that clear, everyone? Any questions, any doubts? Any prerequisites for machine learning in terms of mathematics? Yeah, I would suggest you to remember your a little bit of statistics and probability, and probably linear algebra. These three are very important. Remembering the basics of this would be good enough to get you started. Any other questions? Is there any other way to connect with the learners? I'm not really sure about that, Ankit. You'd probably have to check that up with Edureka. I typically do not connect with the learners, so you would have to get in touch with them. Srinivas, there are too many people in the class. We've got too much of portions involved, and which is why I would not spend too much of time on that. All right, so probably as we go forward, you will get to know more and more. All right. So again, I hope you are all comfortable with the way that, today's class was conducted. If you do have any questions, if you do have any doubts, please make sure to ask those questions. Make sure to clear them up, because this is one platform you will be able to do that on. All right. So with that, we come to the end of today's class. Make sure to fill the feedback forms on the way out. Okay, and please make sure uh, to keep all your questions ready for the next class. All right. Thank you, and have a nice day, everyone. Bye, everyone.